Senate today raised concerns over CBN's latest policy on cash withdrawals. How will this affect electioneering process? We'll find out tonight. And the different political parties and their flag bearers have been going around town wooing voters. The PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar is in Osun State. Peter Obi of the Labour Party in Taraba, White Tinubu is in meetings in London. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm sure Okimale in Abuja. Our countdown continues. Of course, it's now less than 80 days, 79 days actually, to the 2023 general elections. February, is it 80 days or 79 days? Oh, well, my guy says it's 80 days to the election. And so we're counting down to the very moment when Nigerians will be able to elect their leaders for the next dispensation, which of course will begin in May 2023. And so get your PVC and get your rights on track. Part of our conversation tonight is what the CBN's latest policy is all about. And it is the cash policy on withdrawals by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So the Senate has raised concerns about that policy. And the Senate Minority Leader, Philip Aduda, in a point of order during plenary today, called the attention of his colleagues to the new policy and demand for caution as it will affect many Nigerians, especially small business owners. In his response, Senate President Hamid Lawan cautions the CBN not to approach the policy by jumping into it at once, as many Nigerians will be affected. If further noted that there is a need to engage the CBN in discussions to get more details of the policy, and it directs the Committee on Banking to discuss this matter during the screening of the CBN Deputy Governors expected to hold before next week. The Senators also now set next Tuesday to debate the new CBN policy. Well, under this policy, the CBN restricted the maximum cash withdrawal over the counter by individuals and corporate organizations per week to 100,000 and 500,000 respectively. There are other restrictions that are being imposed by the Apex Bank. Take a listen to part of the debate on the floor today.
I want to remind us that we are empowered by Section 88 and Section 89 of the Constitution to summon them, even if that will be by way of issuing a warrant that will compel them, signed by you, so that they can appear before our committee and give account of what they are spending on behalf of the members of the public of our country. Therefore, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I have those agencies we have listed out that have become I don't want to use harsh words that they have become recalcitrant, but they have vehemently refused to appear before our committee. This list of agencies, and of course the amount that is attached or that is against their names that they have spent, they are staggering. Therefore, Mr. President, I want to crave the indulgence of this Senate that we invite, maybe through your order.
You can come with a motion, but I want us to be properly informed and properly guided. Most of us, if not all of us here, have not had an engagement with that institution. We are not happy with what it is, but when we debate, we should have solid grounds. And I believe that at the moment, my personal opinion is, if we want to be a cashless society, we should take time to be a cashless society.
Well, part of what we'll be discussing tonight is that policy for those politicians who think this will have effect on election, campaign funding and all of that. We'll talk about that tonight also. And a hit in the race. Now, we're gradually approaching the new year, and it means that as soon as it's the 4th of January, the atmosphere changes automatically, and the feeling and the feelers about the campaigns will also change as we move towards it. Tonight, we have a robust debate about ideas, character, personalities, profile, and also the track records of some of the leading political party and their flag bearers tonight on the program. So stick around with me, everyone. Before we get talking, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has dismissed a suit brought against the All Progressives Congress by the People's Democratic Party. In its suit, the PDP prayed the court to nullify the candidacy of the legislative candidates running on the platform of the APC in the state on the grounds that their primaries were not monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Presiding Judge Turaki Mohammed dismissed the case, citing a Court of Appeal judgment which makes it illegal for political parties to interfere in the internal affairs of other parties. The governorship candidate of the Labour Party in the 2022 Osun State governorship election, Mr. Lasun Suleiman Yusuf, has dumped the party for the People's Democratic Party. Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun State made the announcement of Mr. Lasun's defection to the PDP on Tuesday at the party's presidential campaign rally in Osogbo. The rally was attended by the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, his running mate Governor Ifeanyi Ukowa of Delta State, party's national chairman Iyorchia Ayu, and the PDP presidential campaign council chairman Governor Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom State, among other party chieftains. The Presidential Campaign Council of the People's Democratic Party in Adamawa State has assured youths of inclusiveness and job creation if the presidential candidate of the party, Atiku Abubakar, is voted as president in the 2023 general elections. At a symposium organized for Northeast youth of the PDP in Yola, the Adamawa State capital, the chairperson of the PDP New Generation, Hawa Atiku Woes, says the PDP is bringing on board youth participation in governance by taking a front seat in the affairs of the country under an Atiku Abubakar administration. The Jigawa State governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Mustafa Lamido, is vowing to declare a state of emergency of unemployment in the state if elected into office. The candidate made the statement in an interview with Channels Television during the flag-off of his campaign in Duse, the state capital. The Yobe North All Progressives Congress senatorial candidate, Mr. Bashir Machina, has been speaking on his recent victory at the Court of Appeal in Abuja. Mr. Machina described the victory as divine and the wishes of his constituents and the judiciary as the last hope of the common man. Addressing a rally of supporters in Nguru, Mr. Machina told his supporters that the judgment of the Court of Appeal in his favor justifies that he's a rightful owner of that primary election, and he promised to carry all the 6 local government areas under his constituency along if voted as senator.
Judgment justifying that we are the actual owners of the mandate given to us by our people. We thank the judiciary. I repeatedly say the judiciary is always the last hope of the citizens.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, says the federal government's anti-corruption fight is very much on course, as not less than 120 billion naira has been recovered from those who stole it from the government. The minister stated this at the 8th edition of President Buhari's scorecard briefing in Abuja, which featured the Ministry of Environment.
I can confirm that so far, the federal government has realized over 120 billion naira.
There you have it. You've been served with your political roundup stories. Now, you know, it's 30 days to the election, and so many issues have come up for conversation. From the conversation around what Bola Tinubu said in his engagement at the Chatham House in London, to the engagement of Bola Atiku Abubakar in Osun State earlier today, and what Peter Obi is saying in Taraba, and what Kwankwaso and the rest of the other candidates are saying. Nigerians are trying to wrap their heads around some of the agenda and the policies of these political parties and the manifestos of the candidates, and who will be their choice as we go into the very critical election. So tonight, we'll talk on some of these issues and looking at the policies, the track records, and the manifestos of some of the front runners in the race. Tonight, I have representatives of these political parties right here with me in the studio. Ilemona Onaja is a lawyer and a member of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you so much, Ilemona, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean.
And Mr. Niyi Akinshiju is a senior member of the APC and also one of the leaders of the Buhari Media Organization. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so
tonight.
much. It's a pleasure.
And Alhaji Yunusa Tanko is one of the spokespersons of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Organization. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Your candidate is in Taraba today.
Oh, yes, we just left Owerri yesterday, and then we went to Taraba today. That shows how energetic and competent and charisma and capacity that he has and want to run in this election and possibly run in the government come to 2023.
I was monitoring and saw when someone made a comment about your candidate running up the staircase in one of and the obedience are not. You always find them trying to throw tantrums, and you see all of that political, either the articulated, the article guys, or the Baptists, the Bola Tinubu people, are also, the engagement is quite interesting, except the ones I don't like is when things now go awry and people start getting personal. That is where I do not think our politics should go. But I mean, does those physical part of the engagement, does it count in administration and all of that? When you say it's
you see, when you base your argument on issue-based politics, it's much better because Nigerian people are not interested in personal attack. And I tell you one thing, Comrade Peter Obi actually made it clear to all the spokespersons that don't deal with the personal issue of any candidate. When it comes to that issue of personal attack or on him or anybody, please, I will handle it. And look at the case in which he was attacked by even Soludo or Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His response was very simple and clear. You are a professor, maybe you could do it even better. He didn't attack their personality. He didn't look at probably the weakness and the health situation of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He never spoke about the stunting of Ahmed Tinubu, but he even wished him well in well recovering. But the issues are, we deal with the issue based on contemporary issues that affect the Nigerian people. One, out of the 7-point agenda, he talked about securing the Nigerian country within terms of making sure that kidnapping and mannapping is all a thing of a past. He talked about the issue of leapfrogging the economy from an oil base to fourth tier of the industrial revolution. He talked about the issue of revolutionizing and industrializing and expanding the infrastructural. And he also went ahead to talk about robustness in terms of our foreign policy. He talked about human capital development, which of course would dovetail into competitiveness and create employment for the Nigerian youth. These are contemporary issues, current issues. They are not rocket science. They are something that affect you and I. And then he went to say...
Does those ideas make your candidate the best? I mean, I was listening to one of the interviews Bola Tinubu was answering to in London when he said he wouldn't vote for any of the candidates in the race except himself because he feels that he's the best candidate. And the others, they are not as experienced as he is.
Well, that is a personal assessment of himself and voting for himself alone. But here we are. The Nigerian people and the Nigerian youth especially have made their choice. And that is why on the 1st of October 2022, they came out in 40 cities, never done by anybody. And they came out and supported the candidature of Peter Obi. Remember when we started, we were on Twitter. They came out physically, now they are on everywhere. Now they are dovetailing into every unit, pooling unit. That is their target. They are tired of the Sesame Twins. They want to get their country back.
What is the Sesame Twins?
Oh, the Sesame Twins, of course, you know, are the PDP and the APC. You cannot differentiate the two.
Really?
Oh, definitely you can't. Let me give you an example. When I was IPAC chairman in 2015, the PDP was in government. And the APC came to me as a chairman of IPAC, including my own leadership. And they said they are not happy and that PDP is trying to use the APC is demanding that they use the accreditation machine. The accreditation machine. And so they came out and said the accreditation machine will not have networks. But the question was at that time, if they want to do ATM in every local government, they have access, there's network. But when it comes to election, there's no network. Now, the same people now who kicked against the use of the accreditation machine because of lack of network are the same people now coming to say, no, the network will not be available.
So you're
and
talking about the
PDP
APC.
and
so PDP said that to you.
Yes, and now APC is saying same too.
So by that virtue,
the assessment twins. You cannot differentiate.
All right, Mr. Akinshiju.
Well, Siamese twins. I don't know how to better define Siamese twins than to have a physical connection between two people. And the little history that I know about the PDP and the Labour Party is that in 2019, the PDP presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, had a running mate by the name Mr. Peter Obi, and today this same Mr. Peter Obi is the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. So how do we now define who is the Siamese twins there? In fact, in our own little cubicle, we deride the Labour Party and, of course, even the other three parties as family members. They are branches of the same trees and of the same tree. So for us, we are determined, as led by the vision of our presidential candidates, to upgrade and upscale the Nigerian situation. And we try to tell Nigerians who are also appreciative of what we have done in the last 7.5 years, thereabout. Now, we came into this country, into this government, when we were needed most, because that was a period of huge challenges, either economically speaking or security speaking. And we had a president who was conscientious enough to understand the dynamics, of the economy and security. So much that the resources we had fallen hugely. But we have been able, to in many ways delivered in terms of infrastructure, in terms of sustaining even our civil responsibilities, either at the level of paying salaries, ensuring that all states in the federation, unlike when, of course, the elder brother of Mr. Obi was in government, when they could not pay salaries of 27 states, we have been able to sustain that. Despite declining resources, revenue, we had been able to even increase FAC allocation, revenue shared at the level of FAC. So much that in the last, if you have been observant, in the last 6 months, we have been able to gross a minimum of 700 billion plus for sharing. So not many states, except states that you have a responsible government, that will say they cannot pay salaries. So we are no longer talking about states not being able to pay salaries or states not being able to pay pension. We are even talking about expanding the scope of our economic activities. And to that extent, you may start talking about what, thankfully, I've brought up what the CBN is doing with our currency. You can also talk about what the CBN is doing with other development economic policies in terms of expanding our capacity for manufacture for the first time. For the first time.
Your candidate said it's going to change, he said it at the Chatham House, that is going to change the economic policy of the fiscal policy.
It's not going to change. It's going to create a connection between our monetary policy and our fiscal policy.
Okay.
And of course,
so are you saying what he wants to do, or you're saying what you think he should do?
That is what he wants to do.
Did you listen to him?
Yes, that is what he wants to do.
Can you explain what exactly?
That
if you listen to whatever, because I know a lot of Nigerians also
that is the explanation. I will give you this. Now, the template, the model for our budgeting now is pegged on our crude oil earnings and is pegged on dollars. And we limit ourselves. Now, going further, despite the pegging, despite the resources constraints, we have been able to deliver so much, despite. Now, what the incoming president is saying by God's grace is, okay, we are going to delimit.
Who is the incoming president?
By God's grace, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. By God's grace.
Because I'm wondering that if the election is still February 20.
I said, we are very spiritual. I am very spiritual.
Okay, so you're talking spiritually.
We talk to this with faith.
Okay.
Because we know that in so many ways we had impacted the Nigerian people. And of course, we also know that we have a candidate that is not only sellable, but is is also very intelligent. He has a strong vision, and that is why we are talking about upgrading what we have now. None of the other candidates have been able to talk to how do we upscale our budgeting system, for instance. How do we upscale the linkage between our infrastructural policy and our industrialization policy? Everybody talks about industrialization policy, forgetting that the industries are driven by infrastructure, and that there should be an active connection between infrastructure and industry. So if you are going to attain anything, it's just like how you are talking, what we are talking about, linking up monetary policy to fiscal policy, as our candidate had been advocating. So it is not just about saying, okay, you are concerned about inflation rates, and therefore you need to increase monetary policy rates. Now, what is important is, what is your goal? What do you want to achieve with your manufacturing sector? Do you want to increase the manufacturing GDP over time? And if so, how do you do that? Do you want to be able to provide credit? Do you want to provide tax incentive and all that? So it is about creating that connection so that you are not, the two major policies, are not disconnected from each other.
Let me allow Onoje to come in. I mean, you've heard, and it does look like when they say that your party and the APC is Siamese. Well, Mr. Kinshu, you said actually it's the APC and the Labour, I mean the PDP and the Labour Party are actually Siamese twin, considering the history of Mr. Peter Obi and that of your Atiku Abubakar.
The first thing that we must establish is that the PDP and the APC are alike as chalk and cheese. Completely not alike. The outcomes of the political parties, the visions of the political parties, the goals and objectives of the political parties, the results that the political parties have delivered to the Nigerian people, completely unalike. The APC has been a party of sorrow. The APC has been a party of pain. The APC has been a party of confusion, to the point where its presidential candidate, as much as possible, tries to delink himself from the unhappiness, the maladministration, and the bad governance that has occasioned the last 7.5 years. If we stick as simple to the CBN's policy and the restriction on the flow or on the withdrawal of more than 100,000 naira without some sort of tax on it, because that's what it is. You pay levies and you pay taxes and all that. There's only one candidate of the party who's ever had a track record of moving money like that on election day. There's only one candidate of any political party. And we know who that is without calling names. But here we are, smack in the middle of the implementation of a currency change. Here we are, smack in the middle of the highest number of unbanked Nigerians in our national history. Here we are with infrastructure in several of the banks failing because of a jackpot wave where most of our middle-class service providers who work in those banks are leaving the country in droves. This is simply, anybody will tell you that this policy is doomed to fail. It has been implemented before in India. It resulted over a 3-year period of the loss of almost 2 million jobs and throwing several millions of people into poverty. The failure is predestined. If we're going to speak about faith, right, what we should speak about is that you cannot act in a certain way and not know and pretend that the outcomes will be altered by faith. The outcomes are never altered by faith. The outcomes are always exactly what they are predicted to be. If we move beyond that, there's only one candidate who has been able to speak about, at the national level, a track record of job creation in the millions. Only one candidate. There's only one candidate who is able to speak about, at the national level, the formulation of macro policies that affect the fortunes of the subnationals at an outstanding rate. There's only one candidate that is able to speak about the growth of generational wealth at an outstanding rate. There's only one candidate who is able to speak about the formulation, the strengthening
of whole sectors of the economy, of whole institutions of government, of whole agencies of government. His name is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. If we come here, if we do the analysis, and we speak the truth with faith, taking into consideration a past of delivery, record delivery. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something and I'll end here. In 1999, Nigeria's GDP growth, 1999, 0.6%. 2000, 5%. 2001, 5.3%. 2002, 15.3%. 2003, 7.3%. 2004, 9.6%. This economy grew under the chairmanship, under the tutelage, under the supervision of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as chairman of the National Economic Commission, the National Economic Council. If the APC, I mean, we've been here 7.5 years. 7.5 years. We're talking what? 3% growth? That your population growth outstrips? How? How does anybody look at us? In a normal country, the APC ought not to be in this conversation. In a normal country, given the track record of record unemployment, given the track record of record insecurity, given the track record of record disunity, given the track record youth unemployment at 52% at 2 years ago, they don't even have the courage to give us current unemployment figures.
Are you insinuating that they failed?
I don't need to insinuate it. As we say in law, res ipsa loquitur. The facts speak for themselves. In their private moments, the failure that must keep them up at night is so monumental. Is so monumental that we simply cannot take into consideration. There is no other conclusion. And the fact, this is my opinion about whether we should, you may say that my opinion that we should vote for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is my opinion. My opinion, that is my opinion, right? But the facts cannot be wrong. The facts show 3 recessions over the course of the last 7 years before. I'll end by saying this introduction, I'll end it by saying this. The PDP handed over to the APC a much better country than it inherited from the military. And what the APC has done with that country, has taken it, has bastardized it, has ripped it to shreds, has taken food out of the mouths of our children, has taken education away from our youth, has taken safety and security away from our parents, has taken healthcare away from all of us, and has left us with this sick, ailing nation. Because we must vote because the people
the APC
to recover.
will sometimes refer to your party as that you have laid a foundation.
I will tell you this, and my quick response.
Yes, I'll allow him to respond. But I wanted him to.
My quick response to that. My quick response to anybody who says that. If the APC, if Mr. Niyi Akinshiju says that to me, I'll tell him to show me 15.3% economic growth at any point in the last 7 years. PDP got to that stage within 4 years. He should show me that sort of growth. He should show me formulation of whole sectors of the economy in that period of time.
So your submission is that
show me.
APC has failed, and based on that record, they should not be on the ballot.
Woefully.
Quickly, let me allow Mr. Akinshiju to respond to you.
Do
you agree your party has failed?
There was no COVID.
Mr. Akinshiju, just a moment. Do you agree, based on the facts and the figures that Ilemona has put on the table, that your party has failed?
I just submitted that this party is appreciated by Nigerians because when it came into government, the PDP left a hollow economy, a hollow government. And that it was because we had a Buhari in place that we were able to stabilize the economy, stabilize the social existence of our people. And I'm saying that we can also, this 15%, I don't know where I got this 15% because I am addicted to figures.
Okay, so
because I am saying,
so let's begin
for
example, yes. Inflation, which is perhaps one of the major, even in America, in Ghana, anywhere you go, inflation issues are the major issues.
And we are 21.09.
At what figure did you meet in 2015?
9.6%.
We met 9.6.
Single digit.
But in 2005, when people say this is the highest inflation rate we had ever recorded in 17 years, I tell people, please go and search. There was no COVID pandemic in 2005 August, when we recorded the highest possible inflation rates in this country since 1999.
What's the percentage of
28.21. 28.21. In July, before then, it was 26%. In the following month, September, it went down to 24%. So we are not even, we are not aspiring to share the records of the PDP. And we are talking at the time, yes, we are talking at the time when the price of crude oil were moving up. The price of crude oil, a barrel, in 1999 was $19 per barrel. By 2005 that we are talking, it had moved up to more than 60%. More than $60. And we are talking of more than 200%.
So the failure that you're explaining now, there was a reason for the failure. That's what
we are not talking about failure. What failure are we talking about?
No,
when globally, no. So we are managers. We are managers.
So there's a reason for the fall.
No, we are managers of an economy that is impacted by global headwind. And there's little we can do about it than to adapt and deploy our own creativity. And we have been able to do that since 2015, when we inherited $63 billion debt from the PDP government. $63 billion debt. Today, we are talking about $102 billion debt, all put together. Please subtract $63 billion from that debt. And of course, don't also forget that by 2015, we also inherited a patry $2.4 billion as from the excess crude account, 2015. Before then, between 2007 and 2015, our excess crude account graduated to $107 billion. And we had a government in place that more or less just threw away that money that was supposed to be a buffer for a period like when we had that COVID-19.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We're back to the table of the conversation on the 2023 race. The choice before Nigerians of who becomes the next president. The PDP, the APC, and the Labour Party, they are represented right on this table, and we are having a conversation about, out of these candidates, about 18 of them, who should be the president of Nigeria. Ilemona Onoja of the PDP, Niyi Akinshiju of the APC, and Unisa Tanko of the Labour Party. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight.
Yeah.
Well, let's also inform you that INEC is reacting to some of the videos that are circulating, and some of the stories coming in from INEC states that that video should not create any form of fear in respect of any manipulation, the use of permanent voter cards. The commission says that it appreciates the vigilance of Nigerians and their determination to see the conduct of free and fair and credible elections in 2023. It is exceedingly important that information such as contained in the video, where some officials are purportedly documenting the information on permanent voter card, is verified before sharing it with the public. They said that a major threat to the upcoming general election comes from fake news and disinformation. The commission appeals to Nigerians to remain conscious of these, even with the prior intention is worthy. INEC is saying that for the newer PVC, that is, those from the continuous voter registration that took place between January and July 2022, the VRNs were harvested automatically and made available online. However, for the older uncollected PVCs that predate the new guidelines, the VRNs must be harvested manually and painstakingly for upload to the PVC collection portal. The portal will also improve the records of the commission regarding collected and uncollected PVCs. INEC is giving information in respect of a video purportedly which surfaced online purportedly of people harvesting some details of the permanent voter cards. So the explanation basically is that the VRN on those permanent voter cards are needed to be documented. So let's get back to the conversation. Like Unisa Tanko, there's been the conversation. I'd like to bring you, although the conversation has not brought you in the mix, but it's basically about the economy and how it's been handled.
Yes.
Ilamana is of the opinion that the APC has failed. I tried to ask Mr. Aniya Akinjushiju whether his party and the government of the APC has failed. He did not answer the affirmative, but he tried to defend the reason why we've gotten ourselves here.
No,
the question is...
We didn't fail. If you, there was no way you would consider this economy as being a failed economy.
If I could help out here.
At 21%, even at 21% inflation rate, are you saying this economy has failed?
Yes.
At 750 billion naira monthly allocation sharing,
yes.
are you saying this economy had failed?
Yes.
At $103 billion debt that is being serviced, that still has the respect of governments and financial institutions across the world. Are you saying this economy had failed?
Yes. Yes.
You know,
At 40, let's balance things.
At even saying that we had a multidimensional poverty index at 133 million. I would go into it because at 2012, PDP gave us a poor population of more than 112 million people. And you say this economy had failed?
Yes, it has.
Not failed.
We'll get into it. Let me allow you.
Let me help out. If the PDP had done so well during its term, 8 years, the APC wouldn't have come and defeat it. It's because of lack of mismanagement of resources that we had in those times.
So you're saying PDP failed?
I have told you that both of them assessed me too, and I've already confirmed it right now.
I'm asking because, you described
Of course, if they have done so well, the way another has made it, if you have done so well.
The performance of PDP affected the APC?
Yes, of course, because if they had done so well, honestly, they wouldn't have lost election. Nigerians would have voted for them.
I am very sorry.
With all respect, sir. Now, if now that the APC had come up and doubled the mismanagement, and he's saying here to the Nigerian people, but they just concluded, let me join the statistics war. Just 1 week or 2 weeks ago, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics released a statistic of 200 million people. 130 million of Nigeria are in abject poverty. 133 people. How else can you describe a failure of a government?
What manner of poverty?
I was not the one who raised that statistic. With all due respect, I was not.
Do you understand what multidimensional poverty is? Do you understand what multidimensional poverty is?
Let's allow him.
Let me finish. Now, so Peter Obi said, I thank you, I'm not perturbed. 133 million people who are poor, come with me. Let us form a new government. And he's taking a cue from what he was able to do in Anambra. Both of them have left debt for Nigeria. But in Obi's case, he built roads, networking roads from where to where, all the local government in Anambra. Not only that, he connected with the students. He made sure that the educational system in Anambra skyrocketed to even brilliancy. Apart from that, he made sure that he built infrastructures, hospitals, and connected with security agencies in Anambra. This is a macro situation. After leaving office, he's left 75 billion naira. Sure, now, you can only be able to distill between the two. That, are you going into a debt-stricken country with people with questionable character? Even if you are going to adjoin this particular candidate, let's look at the competency, character, and commitment of all of these particular people. Each one of them have been adjourned to be taking Nigerian money, especially for those of them in Lagos. We saw it. It's not even bullion van going into a person's house. It doesn't own a company. But the bullion van were going into his house. That is how you are siphoning people's money into your pocket. The other one went ahead to manipulate the system, which was economic, and sold most of this particular company to his own self. Indicted by his superior officer. He indicted by his superior officer. Olusegun Okikiola Obasanjo opened up and said he cannot trust his vice president, even with a long spoon. So now, it is clear to the Nigerian people, who do you vote for? Please, when you talk about Sesame Street, it is not the issue of probably Peter Obi left PDP because he knows he cannot be able to really actualize his dream in the PDP. And so he comes to the Labour Party and bringing out some of these good qualities of his. He's a trader. He can bring you from hostility to prosperity, from consumption to production,
from
This
insecure
right
nation
reply
to a secure
I've been
nation.
looking for has to come at some point.
It will come, just a moment. Yeah.
Please, let's be sincere to ourselves.
Are you?
Yeah, let's be sincere to ourselves.
I would like to reply to everybody now, and I'm coming guns blazing. One of the first things that we must realize when Mr. Nia Kinshiju speaks, he says in 1999, and there were points during the Obasanjo administration when a barrel of oil sold for as low as $19 per barrel. The Buhari administration never suffered that sort of statistic. Never. Never had oil sell for as low as that. If I am not mistaken, the lowest that oil sold for under the Buhari administration was somewhere in the high 30s. If I'm not mistaken, it was $38 per barrel. Yet at lower, we had 5% economic growth in 2000. We had 5.3 GDP growth in 2001. We had 15.3% GDP growth in the year 2022. I will continue calling the numbers. So this excuse of the low price of oil, when you ally that to the fact that, I'm sorry, but you took the highest amount of debt taken by any government in Nigeria, meaning that funds were available to you. Meaning that funds were available to you. If you choose not to supervise your oil industry so that you're not losing the highest level of oil theft in your country, you're not losing those funds to oil thieves, that's your problem. That's a failure of the Buhari administration on the Nigerian people. There's no way that you can look at the Nigerian government and say it failed. There's no way. To speak to Mr. Tanko, and I'll speak a little calmer. Your principle speaks about my candidate with the highest levels of respect. Your principle calls my candidate a man of integrity. Your principle says my candidate is ready to go from policy formulation. He will not do anything about policy formulation. He's ready to go to policy implementation. Your principle calls my man, my candidate, a person of great character, the sort of person that Nigeria needs, to the point where your principal was willing to run as my principal's VP running mate in 2019. Not only that, you look at us and you say that the PDP failed. Your principal was an economic advisor to a PDP government for several years, and we saw economic growth. One of two things is here. There's one of two things here. Either you are looking at us, and for political reasons, you are not telling us the truth. And so you are willing to throw brickbats just because it looks good and it sounds good to the public so that you will accrue a political benefit. Or you are telling us that your principal did not perform in office when PDP gave him a chance. One of those two things is true. Either you're looking at us now and you are telling us lies, or you are looking at us now and you are telling us that your principal did not perform in office when the PDP gave him a chance. I will say this. Now, coming to broader issues of policy. There are policies that even at the Lagos state level, I'll give an example, and this is where Atiku Abubakar has played. This is where we need Atiku Abubakar to play going into the future. One of the things that the APC candidates in Lagos state will always continually say, he will always continually say it, is, oh, he took money, invested in Econet, and then he sold the Econet shares and made a profit of about 13 billion. And so, yeah, that's a sign of his brilliance and his vision and his ability to do good stuff. He says that. But my candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, supervised the telecommunications revolution that made that sort of policy possible in the first place. My candidate supervised the implementation of economic policies that opened up whole sectors of
let
the
me allow
Nigerian
Mr.
economy.
to come in here. Because there is one round of the conversation that I like you also go on before we go. Because apart from, just a moment, because there will be a part two of this kind of conversation. Apart from the economic, because we've dwelled so much on the economy, we'll throw on the character of the candidate before we close. So quickly, Mr.
I think we should first set this record straight for our Labour man. Our Labour man left 75 billion naira cash, and then left more than 120 billion naira debt. That is the economy they learn in trading in the Aba market, as it were. So that is for the Labour man. Our PDP man said that the price of crude oil, a barrel of crude oil, was $19 per barrel.
At points during the Obasanjo
No,
administration.
no,
I said during
no. You are not getting it. I said when the Obasanjo government was sworn into office, a barrel of crude oil was $19. And it moved expeditiously between 1999 and 2003 to more than $60 per barrel. 4 years. And we are talking of graduated movement. And yes, at a point in time, in 2016, a barrel of crude oil sold under the Buhari government went as low as $21 per barrel. And don't also forget that at that time, by 2015, part of the debt we inherited from you people was $5.3 billion of the joint venture cash call. And that is why today we are constrained, on how to have more wells from our wells, because our joint venture partners were incapacitated to dig more wells. That is one. Then two, we can also go forward. This your 15% 2003 or 2004 is not, that is not GDP rate. There was no particular quarter or year that the PDP government recorded a 10%, an 11% growth. A growth rate is different from actual growth. We may have a growth rate of even 30%, which we have even recorded more than 15% growth rate. Right. But going forward, now talking about the economy as it were, under this Buhari government, we inherited a recession, and we exited that recession as early as 6 months.
You have been defending the Buhari government.
No,
we are talking about
because there's Tinubu himself had declared a connection between his government and the Buhari government. And the basis of that connection is to say that a foundation had been laid by the Buhari government. Now going forward into the Tinubu era, we are now going to see an upscale of what the Buhari government has done and what has kept us going. We have a government in place that is visionary enough to say, look, let us start moving away.
And look at them in the eyes and say, based on what the Buhari APC government has done over the last 7 years, your party should be voted for again in 2023.
Our party inherited a recession.
No,
we moved out of that recession.
I wanted to ask you a question because we need to lead to culminate into my next question.
Our party also experienced COVID-19.
Would you tell Nigerians that based on what you promised, and what you have given Nigerians, they should trust you again?
Based on what we promised,
all right, good.
We have done so much.
All right.
Given the context of our performance, that we have done so much, and we believe that Nigerians, are even wiser now. They would be ignoring.
All right. Yes, of course. I'll get your closing remarks. Now, let me begin with Alhaji Yunus Tanko and give us, and I'd like you to speak just in 30 seconds about the character of your candidate. Why Nigerians should entrust their destiny into the hands of Peter Obi and the Labour Party.
Which is one, the respect that is already bestowed upon his former principal. It's a character that showed decorum and decency, which Onoja did not really understand. What I read out was not my own personal view or that of Peter Obi. It is the view of his own superior officer in office. I only just amplified it. And you can check the records. And for the issue of prudency and management of resources, is part of the character of Peter Obi.
All right, let me take...
Which, of course, one moment, please.
We need
just one moment. When he said...
I need to balance things money, so that they can get their final thought too. Apologies. Mr. Akinshi, your 30 seconds start now.
The truth of the matter is that you have a candidate in Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu who has a reference model in Lagos. And of course, we are talking of the 5th largest economy in Africa. When we are talking of that, it means that so much effort had gone there. And that economy did not just wake up. It started that sequence of development from 1999.
Let me take Onoja's final word. 30 seconds. The character of your candidate and why Nigerians should vote.
My candidate is simply the most experienced, the safest pair of hands. The only person who has worked in a Nigeria that was failing, turned it around, recovered it, placed it on a path firmly on a path to socio-political and economic growth and development. Of the three people represented here, only one person has that track record, my candidate, Alaji.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Ilemana Onoja, Mr. Niya Kinshiju, and Alaji Yunus Atanko. Thank you so much indeed. Nigerians, you've been presented with options. You know the rest of them. We will be bringing them to you as we have been bringing them to you. But this is how we close the program tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Akimale. God bless Nigeria.